subscribe to the channel. Do it now.
What is going on, party people in the house? By the way, before I even get too far in, John with a Jon actually beat Rodolfo in, and so did Chad Gibson. Rodolfo finishes in the third. You're on the podium, but damn, Rodolfo, they caught you slipping tonight, dog. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. What is going on, everybody? I'm glad to see everybody in here. Jackie's in here. Eric's in here. My main man Richard from the Rogue Shop is in here. Michael Harges is in the house. Like I'm getting hyped to see some of my familiar faces, familiar family that's coming in. So you guys know what today is. It is Wednesday, hump day, trying to get through the week kind of day. And if we are at Wednesday and we made it to Wednesday night, you know what time it is. Time for your Drunk Unk Sports Podcast, and I'm your host, Drunk Unk, Anwar Richardson, back in full effect, baby. Happy to talk to you guys. Happy to see you guys, man. It's been, I feel like this whole year has just been flying by. Like I just feel like every time I look, it feels like another month is about to go by, and we're about to speed into May. I feel like they're trying to throw my ass into 50. You know, like that. No other year is going by faster than the year that I'm about to turn 50. And now all of a sudden it's just like, hey, no, we'll bump it. We just gonna skip May and just head into September before we know it. But I'm still happy, excited, and just excited to talk to you guys today because I got a lot of stuff, man. I got a lot of stuff I want to do. Got a drink in my cup as always. So I hope you guys got a little drink in your cup, a little sippy sip, a little something. Or if you are a Rogue person, do that, but you know, Rogue gonna get me tired, so I can't do that right now. But that's afterwards for you. But speaking of sponsors, our show brought to you by my main man, Eric Torres, El Presidente, of Mr. Eric Sells Homes DFW. I've been telling you guys, and now is absolutely the time. If you're looking to sell, buy a home, whatever it is, Eric Sells Homes DFW.com. He's got you covered, man. He is going to be the person if it's time for you to say, man, I need to buy a home. I need to upgrade my home. Maybe I need to downgrade my home. Kids are about to leave soon. Kids about to graduate, and you don't need all that kind of house. You say, let me just go ahead and downgrade. About to get divorced. Got to sell a house. Now, this is divorce season too. This is like the kids about to graduate. We don't even like each other no more. Let's go ahead and get divorced. You might need to sell a home. Might be able to save up some money. Got a little huge chunk from the IRS. You want to buy a home, whatever it is. Eric Sells Homes DFW. My main man's got you covered. Make sure you hit him up. El Presidente. He's a Longhorn. So you definitely got to go ahead and hit him up and take care of him. And excited for you. By the way, last thing on that, and what's up, Southern Texas Drunk Uncles in the house. There was one other thing that I totally forgot. So, oh well. It was probably something really nice. So my mind doesn't operate about that. But speaking of, just real quick, I want to say this real quick before we get the show started. RIP to Chuck Carlton of the Dallas Morning News, who, you know, the news trickled, started hearing it last night, and the news trickles out today that he had passed away. So, you know, RIP to Chuck. I got to see him and meet him and know him throughout the years of him coming to UT games. I won't sit here and profess to say that I was as close to him as a lot of other media members were. I know he had a lot of other closer friends in the media than myself, but as a person who kind of usually stays guarded with a lot of people, because I don't always trust a lot of folks, and there's just a lot of backstory to that. Chuck seemed to be a really good person, and I enjoyed talking to him. He'd always kind of pick my brain whenever he would come into town and ask me, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you hearing? And it was a real sign of respect for him to ask me, you know, always want to know my opinion about the team and what I've been hearing, what I would be willing to share with him. And always ask about what's going on in the Orangebloods, what they're talking about in OB, and wanting to get a pulse of that. So not all reporters sometimes respect, at least with the old school people, the message boards, and because they don't necessarily understand, like it goes beyond just a message board. It's a community, but we do news and all these kind of stuff. So, but long story short, RIP to him, and so set up prayers for his wife, his daughter, and then all his family members, close friends that are affected by that loss. I can't imagine what that is to deal with. But RIP to you, Chuck. Good dude. So this weekend, let me tell you about this upcoming weekend for your boy. You guys, my son. I told you guys about him and the AAU basketball. That's what we've been doing, right? AAU basketball, AAU basketball, AAU basketball. And our last tournament was in Round Rock this past week, and I just thought to myself, okay, we're gonna kind of take some time off, reload, and then come back. But I think I've told you guys that he's also gotten into soccer, and he went to a practice or two, and they just kind of invited him in as a guest. He went to a long story short, he looked good enough in just when he played and everything that they've invited him to participate in a soccer tournament this weekend with the Lone Star program. So Unc is now getting into soccer. So Unc is now the basketballs, and we're gonna do both. I'm gonna have him hold on as long as he can. I told him he's too young to try to pick a sport right now. But that's right. Hey, just know Unc is gonna be sitting there watching soccer this weekend. Probably drinking my cup as well. The damn games are at 5:00 on a Friday, Saturday, and at 2:00 on a Sunday. I don't know what world this is. Like my AU basketball world, we start at 8:00. We got another game at 10. Like we done. Like we got the whole afternoon. Maybe it's a 9 and we starting in the evening time. And then we got Austin FC on Saturday night. So anyway, wish me luck as I try to transition from being a basketball dad into a soccer dad. But the only thing that matters to me is that I am a dad. I'm going to support him whatever he does. So we'll give the soccer thing a try and go Max. I'll let you guys know how he does next week. And last thing too, when like a little kind of a couple of housekeeping things as I'm going through the draft. Is tomorrow. We did this thing on when I had the modcast and I was hosting it on Tuesday, and I kind of want to get you guys' opinion because I don't think I asked any of you guys in the chat, but this is the Unk Show, and this is you guys are in here in the chat. If you can for me and hope to participate. By the way, if you're watching it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it. We're going to have a fun time. Unk Shows is different than most other shows because this is me. This is who I get. This is who I really, really get to be, right? This is who I am and how much I get to enjoy myself. And so, I think of the Drunk Unc Sports Podcast as like it's all family gathering. And who would I be in that family? I'd be the drunk unc, the person that's trying to joke, the person that's trying to have a good time, the person that's trying to engage. But at the end of the day, the person that you're able to learn something from. So that's why I go to Drunk Unc Sports Podcast, and that's what's up with that. So I want you guys to do a couple of things for me. So in the chat, I want you to put in for the same exercise. For Bijan Robinson, I want you guys to put in there, what pick do you think? Because we all think Bijan's going to be a first-round pick. What pick do you think Bijan will be tomorrow? When I say pick, like number 8 to Atlanta, number 10 to Philadelphia, like go ahead and give that to me, what you guys think. Be on the record as far as that is concerned. And then after you do that, for the other guys who are left, Roshan Johnson, DeMarvion Overshone, Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojomo, go ahead and tell me what rounds you think those guys are going. So I want you to give me Bijan in the pick, and then give me Roshan, DeMarvion, Keandre, Moro Ojomo. Give me that. And Blake, do me a favor. Why don't you go ahead and put up a poll for Bijan and say when Bijan will be drafted, and do like 1 through 9, 10 through 19, and then 20 to 32, or however you want to break it up. If there's however you want to break it up into fours, but put that up there as well, so we can have you guys kind of interact with that. I want to kind of get your guys' opinion as we go into it. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a fun night uh, for for the Longhorns, finally being able to see guys like in the first round, like legit. Like I remember when Malcolm Brown went into the first round, and he kind of like snuck in there, and you're like, oh snap, Malcolm Brown. It was like the last pick, right? And he was one of those, like, as they went to the commercial kind of guys. You're like, oh, damn, that just happened. And then you had to come back and do it afterwards. But we know legit that we're going to be sitting there, and right around the time that, Atlanta comes to Abe, we're going to just be sitting there and watching, but we don't know what happens. We don't know. That's the great thing about the draft, is that the poker faces, the things that you heard all off season, all the experts, you could throw away all their things, all the things that they said was going to happen, all their, draft and their picks, that all their projections, all that kind of stuff, their mock drafts, right? It just burn up in flames after the first trade that goes down. I love it, by the way. It's my guilty pleasure watching mock drafts just burn. This is a huge guessing game. But when I covered the Bucks, and I'm going to tell you guys, when I covered the Bucks, and then I covered the Lions, and even in Yahoo, but they would always want us to do a mock draft, like just do a mock draft, because people love mock drafts. So I always would have to do mock drafts. I hated having to do mock drafts because you don't really know what anyone's really going to do. And it to me, it was just like a waste of time to put something down for someone to just throw in my face later on. Like, this is what you did wrong. I mean, I've been married 2 times. I don't need that in my professional life too. I would get that at home. What the hell? Now I gotta you get the right to tell me that too? Shit, I thought one person got to tell me that. So anyway, that's the funny thing about the mock draft. So anyways, I'll be interested to see where Bijan goes. But then once we get past Bijan, right, I'm curious about everybody else. So I'm curious about Roshan. I view him as like kind of a third-ish, fourth roundish. Probably more. I view Roshan more like a fourth round guy. I put in the Marvion as a fourth round guy. I put Keandre late for me as a potential, maybe like a 6th roundish kind of guys, where I got Keandre paid and Morrow potentially undrafted. Which is interesting, by the way, because I received an email from Morrow's people today saying that he'd be available to speak after the draft. And I was like, wow, okay. They said after he was drafted, they would make him available. And I said, oh, okay. I mean, that's cool. And look, I hope he is. You know me, I'm free Morrow. If he get a chance to talk and he's not going to be silenced, like, hey, feel free to talk. So we'll see what happens. I also think, too, guys, as you guys are putting your stuff in the chat, like I said, what pick do you think Bijan's going to go to? And then give me the rounds for Roshan, DeMarvion, Keandre, and Morrow. This to me ends up being kind of a big thing. Bruce says Bijan Robinson 2nd round, so now I know Bruce is tripping or trolling. I don't know which one it is, but I know I've only had a couple of sips, so I know it's got to be one or the other. I know it ain't me, so it's got to be tripping or trolling. I think there's also a big draft for Sarkisian because after last year and not having guys drafted, like as Texas gets ready to go into the SEC. And I know Steve Sarkisian keep telling you we're in the Big 12, we're in the Big 12. That's all that matters. Well, you're going to go to the SEC, and that's a huge thing. This happened. Big 12 is important for a year, but when you're recruiting, the recruiting is going to be for the SEC. And the thing that you're going to see, and you guys all know this, and I'll probably write about it on Sunday. We're going to see what the SEC numbers look like in the draft. And as you and I both know, it's going to blow away every other conference. And then we're going to look at what the Big 12 numbers look like. And you're gonna have to hope that it keeps up with like the American Conference. Like that's just where we are in life. Like that and you think I'm BSing, you just gotta look it up. Just look up last year's results, and you will be able to see like, oh, I'm not tripping on this one. It's going to be the SEC up here, the Big 10 Pac-12-ish somewhere. You have these kind of conferences, and there's going to be like the Big 12, with one guy in the first round, this Texas Tech guy, which I don't. Alex is so correct. I never thought to myself like, dude, that dude from Texas Tech, he a beast, he a monster. Like never ever thought we saw Texas versus that Texas Tech defense, and not one time did you think to yourself like, how are they stopping that guy? Like, no. Talk about drafting an inexact science. I mean, I feel you just need someone that just is going to fall in love with you, and all of a sudden, and look, I ain't trying to rain on a dude's parade. Go ahead and make your money. I'm just curious how this love of him, where that came from, and how that came about. But here's a, I'm just let it go. But this will be big because what Steve Sarkisian will be able to say and be able to sell is like, look, I got Bijan Robinson, I got him in the first round, and look how important that is. We've got Roshan got drafted, DeMarvion got drafted, Keandre got drafted, Morrow got drafted, and these aren't really my guys, and these aren't guys that are recruited, but I helped to develop and mold them into that. And you'll give the previous staff the credit for recruiting these guys. And then Sarkisian gets the credit for the developing these guys. The Bijan Robinson these last 2 years, that was under Sarkisian. Roshan Johnson the last 2 years was under Sarkisian. DeMarvion Overshown, all these guys under Sarkisian. Like, I'll be honest with you, Keandre Coburn, Moro Jomo, these aren't guys that I looked at a couple of years ago and thought to myself like, oh, those guys are going into the NFL. I just looked at them as guys. To be just quite honest with you, I just looked at them as guys. And these guys right now looking at like potential NFL draft picks, which is pretty damn incredible, pretty damn amazing, So, and by the way, Hookham asked me what we're in the first round. I don't think Bijan for me gets past Philly, unless Philly's just throwing smoke screens that are out there. I think I'll ride with everyone else and say that. Now, the only caveat is if there's a team that just says, you know what, forget it, I'm just going to trade up and I'm going to try to get Bijan. Like, we don't know who's like in love with him, because people will tell you stuff all the time. Oh man, the running back market, no one cares about the running backs. Yes, they'll say that, and then they just go ahead and get a running back, and then all of a sudden everyone say, oh, running backs are back. So Bijan is good enough where I think I think Alex had him going to New England a little bit, which I think was pick 17, if I remember Alex saying that correctly. You guys may have that in front of you. But I'm looking at him as a top 10, definitely first round, nonetheless. If he goes to New England, I think I would definitely root for him. I think I'm going to root for him wherever he goes, because, I'm kind of a casual fan. Like, I'm more of a fantasy football guy. And betting on sports gambling, than anything else. So I don't really have a team anymore. Like, if I have to have a team, it's probably the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that's about it. And what's up to my main man, Interstate? It's good to see you, my man. Good to see you, brother. It's been a little while, but it's good to see you, another Richard that's out there. But this will be a real good good barometer, a good test for Sarkisian, a test that he'll pass. But as a recruiter, he's going to be able to sell, what they're able to do. And then here's the other thing, and I kind of wrote this for Sunday. I mentioned this a little bit on Monday, but I want to, I can't take for granted and just believe that you guys write and read every single thing that I do. Like, it's like arrogant. So sometimes if I repeat myself, don't think it's just, you say to yourself, well, Anwar said this, a week ago or two on this platform. And I'm like, yeah, I may have, but I understand that people that watch Drunk Unk may not watch the podcast, or people that are on here may not read me on Orangebloods, which is shame on you, because Orangebloods has paid my bills and I kind of need y'all support with that, to be quite honest with you. But we'll get to that another point. When there's promos out there, we'll get there. So I looked it up and I did some original research here, guys. And so if Bijan goes first round, which we all expect that to happen, right? That's we see that, right? And let's say Quinn is a first rounder next year, right? Let's just dream big tonight. Let's just dream. Let's just sip on this like we just drink and drink, right? Which maybe not be a far stretch, right? I think Quinn could be good enough to be a first round pick. Like there's going to be a run on quarterbacks next year. There's going to be a lot of good ones that are out there. Quinn has that capability, right? So if he goes first round, and Texas would have back-to-back first-round picks since the first time, I looked this up, since 2009 and 2010. Bijan this year, Quinn next year, maybe it's not Quinn. Maybe it ends up being someone like Xavier, right? Then that ends up being they would have back-to-back first-round selections since 2009, 2010. Those 2009 was Brian Arakpo. And he was at number 13. In 2010, that was Earl Thomas. That is what's on the line. And the cool part about it is that you kind of start to feel that Sarkisian may have enough dudes where this might be the last year that we're only talking about a handful of guys getting drafted. Like this might be the last year, guys, where we're just talking about, you got about 3 or 4 guys, and then we'll see what happens. Like this Sarkisian may have this thing cooking. He may have this thing on the temperature. He may have this thing cooking at about like a good simmering 350, right? Nah, just consistently hot, where you just know what you're going to expect, Or maybe you just want to say, man, I'll bump that. He's at a consistent 400. It's smoking. It's on fire, but not like burning it up, but real good. Because when I was looking at it, once we get past this year, think about what next year looks like as far as draft prospects are concerned, right? And again, apologies if you heard this before, but I think this is worth repeating, especially right before the draft. Okay, we've got Quinn Ewers as a potential draft pick, so that's 1. A.D. Mitchell, 2. Xavier Worthy, 3. Jatavian Sanders, 4. Christian Jones, 5. Jalen Ford, so we're at 6. Barron Sorrell, we're at 7. Ryan Watts, so that puts us as 8. Jahdae Barron at 9. Tavondre Sweat at 10. Byron Murphy at 11. Jaron Thompson at 12. And for those of you who believe Jordan Whittington is a prospect, we'll go ahead. Then Jordan Whittington will be at 13. Now, all those guys are not going to get drafted. We understand that, okay? But we understand that nonetheless, if all came out and all went well, we know Quinn's getting drafted. We know Xavier is going to get drafted. We know Jatavian is going to get drafted. So we're at 3. A.D. Mitchell, the way he's performed, he's probably going to get drafted at some point, whether he comes out next year or not. So that's at least 4 right there. I don't know about Christian Jones. Jalen Ford's definitely going to get drafted. We're at 5. Barron Sorrell, we're at 6. I'll put down Watts and Barron at 7 and 8. We know Tavondre is going to get drafted, so that's kind of a 9. Byron Murphy is at 10. And I don't know about Jaron Thompson. I don't know about Jordan Whittington, right? So, I left myself a little bit wiggle room. So Christian Jones, I don't know. Jaron Thompson, I don't know. Jordan Whittington, I don't know. And even if you took one of my guys out and you just said to yourself, like, okay, that guy just for whatever reason didn't test well, failed the medical, something to that effect. We still are talking about a large amount of Texans that or Longhorns rather, who are going to potentially get drafted next year. So if this thing gets cooking the way that we believe it's going to get cooking, then boy, watch out. And if that happens, then yeah, Steve Sarkisian's got this thing going. So we will see. We'll be watching. If you are on Orangebloods, we'll have a live chat that's going throughout. If anything crazy happens, maybe put out a video tomorrow night about Bijan or something to that effect. I don't know. I got to play that thing by ear. You guys are always funny when it comes to former players. Like sometimes you guys like to talk about them, and a lot of times you guys want to talk about the guys on the roster. So we'll judge it from there and see what we can do. But just last thing I'll say to that is good luck. Good luck to all the Longhorns that are going to be in the draft, and good luck to all you guys. We salute you, which is AKA our reason to have another drink. So I was in Houston earlier today. Actually went last night to Houston. I Houston is a crazy place to me because I enjoy Houston. The women in Houston are some of the most attractive women throughout the state of Texas. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but the women in Houston, bruh, you can have like a woman who's like an assistant manager at a clothing store, and she's like a 9. There's just beautiful women everywhere in Houston, and I love going to Houston. But man, Houston is a crazy city, and I get sometimes like Unc's got to pack that thing. I'm like, Unc is happy that he's got his concealed license to go to Houston because y'all are crazy in that state, that city as well. Like everything about Houston is just it is like really about just risking it all. But I enjoy going to Houston. But every time I go to Houston, like I remember one time a few years ago, I went to like the Galleria. And there was like I was there with a smash and grab at a jewelry store. It's just like, oh, it's just Houston, smash and grab. They just smash it, window, grab a bunch of stuff and like rolled out. There's a fight. And, there's just all kinds of crazy stuff that goes on in Houston. But it's still like there's so many cool things about Houston as well. I don't. It's one place I feel like I like to visit there. I probably just want to live there. But I had a chance to go to Houston today. I went last night with my son and got a chance to see some of my homeboy Sam from Big City Wings. He was out there. My boy Demetrius, he was out there as well, kind of holding it down. But got a chance to see those guys and really enjoy that. By the way, shout out to my man Sam at Big City Wings. Really good establishment. And so Sarkisian, I was there because Sarkisian was speaking to the Touchdown Club of Houston. It was really fun event. He does it every year, and I go out there every single year just to kind of see what the coach has to say. Whether it's Sarkisian's, Charlie Strong. I mean, I've been out there for every single coach. Every single year I've been out there on the beach. I know exactly where to go. It used to be at a Marriott towards the Galleria. They moved it to this Bayou Center. So we got a chance to go out there and talk to Sarkisian and see what that was about. A couple of things that came out of there I kind of want to address with you guys. And so one of the things I tweeted today, and it shocks me sometimes, the things that I tweet that take off, that people start talking about, and I look back and it's got 500-600 likes and a bunch of retweets, and I look at it and it's got like 40,000, 50,000 views, and I'm just like, what? This? And one of the things that was so fascinating that I tweeted today is that I said that Arch Manning, it was something that Sarkisian said, that Arch Manning doesn't have an NIL deal, and the family's motto is, in belief from Archie Manning and everybody else, is that until Arch is a college starting quarterback, he doesn't need to sign an NIL deal. And I just got all this interaction from posts and all these people kind of talking about it. They couldn't believe it. It was like the first time I heard it. And so I thought to myself, the first thing I thought to myself is, I reported this thing on Orangebloods last year. So my first thought was, where the hell are you? And I was like, oh, these are the casual fans who are not on OB. And I was like, I got it. So my people who paid $10 a month and they got it for the inside information, they knew exactly what I tweeted months ago. And so I had to go like, oh, this is the first time you guys have seen some of this. Okay, because you guys are following Twitter and following the free sites, and of course following the national people, which, by the way, if you're following national people for Longhorn news, like I gotta tell you, you're getting screwed. They do not know. I'll be honest with you, they don't know. They'll know the big thing, singular, right? Like Pete Thamel will know something that's a big, and well, props to Pete. Like, I'm not picking on Pete or anything like that. He's very good at what he does. Like, I'm just, but Pete's job isn't to do the day to day on Texas. Like, Pete's job isn't to talk about like David Benda. That's not his job. He's got every team to cover, and I was a national writer, so I understand this. One of the things I didn't enjoy about being a national writer when I worked at Yahoo, I can tell you guys this. One of the things I didn't enjoy, I always had to do radio interviews, right? So Buffalo would have me on, and New Orleans would have me on, and I'm over here talking to a Miami station, and like I'm everywhere, like all the stuff. And so here's the thing: you, as a national person, and I know this as a formal national writer, so I'm not speaking on anything. I'm speaking from experience. You're able to know about the generics about teams, but to do a too deep, shit, that's impossible. Because I don't have the time. I can only really go to your starters and maybe a couple of key backups. But if you're asking me to go on a San Diego radio station and talk about such and such, like we're going real, like I've got you here, but don't ask me about like the things that happened 3 years ago and all that. I can't do all that. And so these national people who have been wrong about Arch pretty much damn the entire time. Let's just keep it a buck. Because there were people, let's just talk about how wrong national people have been about Arch. There was many national people that never even believed that Arch would come to Texas. Start there. Can we start there? They didn't think that Arch would come to Texas because Georgia was in the mix, Alabama was in the mix, and Sarkisian, coming off a 5-win season, has no chance of landing an Arch man. There's no chance that he's going to go there. Oh, he's just entertaining them. He's just being nice, but they're not going to go there. And those people were wrong as 2 left feet. That's what my mama used to say. She said, "You boy, sometimes you was wrong as 2 left feet." She also said a lot of other things. Some of the nicer things she said to me. The other things required counseling. And so anyway, and then and so there was some other things that they, so they're wrong about that. They were wrong about their projections as far as how much money, they were wrong about before that. They were wrong about projecting that he was going to compete against Quinn Ewers to start. And I'm like, nah, who said that? Who's Adam Schefter tweeted something? Why is he tweeting that? That's not true. I mean, that's coach speak. That's not going to happen. And then remember I said, like, after the spring game, everyone's falling on their swords. Barstool, all these folks like, well, I guess it's not going to be quarterback competition. I'm like, well, I guess not. Of course not. Where the hell you been? Because you're a national person. And that's your job. Your job is to get the information from the locals, right? So they don't know. And then all these people who had these things like Arch Manning, how much money he's making the NIL, and he's making all this money through NIL and all these projections and the calculators and all this kind of stuff. He's probably making like $3 million a year in NIL. And I reported last year, like, they're not even pursuing that thing. And of course, Steve Sarkisian, months later, says, like, nah, he don't even have an NIL deal. And people like shocked. They're like, oh, he doesn't have an NIL deal. Well, he's got a lot of money. Like, yeah, well, duh, he's got a lot of money. But still, he's not pursuing NIL stuff. But people were really shocked and surprised about that. And Chad, you're right. And they don't. National people don't even know that Maalik Murphy exists. Like there's national people don't know that Maalik Murphy is the number 2 quarterback at the University of Texas. Is probably going to be the backup this year. They're like, who? Maalik who? Who? I don't know. Maalik Jefferson? Did he switch and come back? Like, no, Murphy. They don't know any of that stuff, right? So he talked about that. Speaking of Maalik Murphy, Sarkisian did say something that was really interesting, though. I thought it was really cool, by the way, because he was asked about Maalik Murphy not transferring. And look, keep it a buck with y'all. I thought Maalik Murphy might have been gone like after last season. I just told because I just thought from my point of view, my just rational point of view, like I really thought to myself, okay, he's gonna be gone. Like, he's not gonna hang around this. He's not gonna hang around for Arch competition. His Quinn is here, Arch is here. Like Maalik is gonna say, you know what, I'm done with this thing. I'm gonna go to Utah. So is that where every former Texas quarterback goes? Is like goes to Utah? Like how does he have a speed dial? How's that coach have a speed dial to every Texas quarterback? Right? That just this seems to be like, damn man, I'm just going to Utah. I was at Texas, gonna go to Utah, and that did it. It happened. But Sark said something that was really cool today about Maalik, and I really enjoyed it. And he said, the thing about Maalik is that he believes and kind of trusts the process, trusts the system. But he started talking about Maalik, being a kind of a backup when he was at back in high school. And I started nodding. I was like, yeah, that's right. He was a backup. And then if you guys remember, I think in his first part of a senior when he plays. They are a bad team. I think they were like a 1-win team or something to that effect. But he started talking about, man, he could have transferred back then. And dude, I know people. How many of y'all know people who are in high school that transfer multiple times? I got one of my closest friends, one of my homeboys, love him to death. And his son transferred to 3 different high schools as from sports related, because really out of football. 3 different. And I'm not, hey, do what you gotta do what you gotta do with your kid. Like, I'm not begrudging the decision, but it happens when people transfer. And Maalik didn't. And so when you start talking about that, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, Sark, you make sense. That does make sense. So you speak to what kind of guy that Maalik Murphy really is. So when you say like, I'm not surprised he's not as a transfer, I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely correct, because his mind is built different. His mentality is his heart, his mental DNA, like it's all different for Maalik. So yeah, you and I probably would have been out. Deuces. I would have been in. Me and Eric, we've been married like 12 times, like combined, right? We are out. We don't commit to nothing. What? I'm committed to my divorce attorney. Well, I ain't committing to you. I ain't staying in this thing. It got rough. Oh man. But it said, yeah, I got to go. I'm gonna go get myself a 1-bedroom loft downtown. Nah, I'm for the country. I live living out of that. But it made sense as he talked about the thing with Maalik and why he hasn't transferred. And it really it's really admirable. And now where we see where Maalik is at now, and you guys know I'm high on Quinn, I'm high on Maalik. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I believe that you can say one guy's good and another guy's good. And Maalik will have to wait his turn, but Quinn's going to be good this year. And then next year, I think Maalik will probably be good. And then if Arch overtakes him potentially, but I think Maalik probably starts next year, and then Arch goes the year after that, and that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It won't be the end of the world if Arch Manning has to wait 2 seasons to start in the college game. Whoa! Wow, my God! I hope if you believe in him being a Manning, that just means he plays for a year or 2 and then he goes to the NFL. Oh darn! It's not the end of the world. Sark's building it up, and so I thought it was really good what he said about Maalik. Really, just praises to him, and you hope for everyone in that room to succeed. So let me get into the one last thing I want to talk to you guys about. It really goes to one of my soapboxes, but it goes to my thought process. I was thinking about it as I was like, how do I get you guys into this topic? And start thinking about working smarter and not harder. Working smarter and not harder. It's an old adage, it's an old saying in life. It's a thing that we all kind of go and strive to do. But I started thinking about in ways in my life when how did I try to work smarter and not harder. And I remember as a writer, especially like writing columns here, at Orangebloods, because I do write columns, by the way. My official title is actually columnist, even though I have reporter mixed in there slash YouTuber slash social media. Like it's got everything, but in my core, I'm actually a columnist. But I think a lot of you guys just associate me as being a reporter. And one of the things that I would do when I write my Sunday columns is I used to kind of get into this routine of trying to write really, really late at night, like writing into like the midnight hour and a 1 o'clock hour and going late and just kind of pushing myself. And, and what I would find myself doing is it would take me hours and I'd be so tired and drained. And then I'd wake up in the morning and I would say, oh my gosh, like all the stuff that I wrote when I was in this fog, like I can't make sense of what was I trying to say at 11:30 and I'm so tired. And I realized at some point, you know what? Put the laptop down, go to sleep, get a good night's sleep, wake up at 6 o'clock. And I realized that with a good night of sleep, all the hours that it was taking me to write a column at night, at least finish off certain parts, I was able to get it done in a few hours in the morning, not the entire column, but just the important parts of it. Because I realized, it's more important for me to work smarter, not harder. And smarter was getting good night of rest, waking up, feeling good, rejuvenated, and then going from there. Dating apps. Isn't dating apps aren't they all just about working smarter, not harder? Like you can go out to the club and meet somebody, start talking to that little someone, and then trying to engage all night long and buy drinks and I gotta buy her friends drinks because they big mad because ain't nobody talking to them, so you got to make them feel special as well, So you just all drinks everybody, and then you don't even know what may or may not happen when it's all said and done. And then a dating app comes along, you're like, man, I ain't gotta buy nobody a drink. I'll have my drink and I'll just keep swiping and I'll work smarter and not harder. And the last thing I think about when I think about working smarter, not harder, and especially if you have a family or you're single, the air fryer. Oh boy, whoever invented this thing, thank you, baby Jesus, because the air fryer is the ultimate of work smarter and not harder. Because all you take that thing out the freezer, and then you're just like, man, let me just get some olive my oil. I said olive oil, but whatever oil like you like to put your meat in, and then and season that thing up, throw that frozen thing in the air fryer for about 12 13 minutes, whatever, and next thing you know, that thing tasted as amazing and juicy and all that kind of stuff, and you just work smarter, not how harder. You could have go ahead and put that thing in the oven for 30 45 minutes, whatever, and the air fryer has got that thing going and tastes so amazing because you were able to work smarter and not harder. Love me some air fryers, by the way. Golly, you know what the air fryer is to me? Y'all remember when we had back in the day? How many of you guys had a George Foreman grill? Do you remember? How many of you guys had a grill? If you were a single dude, I know you had a George Foreman. I know you had a George Foreman grill. Do y'all remember back in the day when you had it, you try to season it up a little bit, put that thing on, and next thing you know, your hamburger or whatever came out, chicken, whatever you wanted to put, pork chops, whatever you put, fish, whatever you put on that thing, that George Foreman grill had that thing going. Man, the air fryer is like that times like 10. Air fryer is so amazing. It makes you work smarter, harder. I love it. And you can have like a good cooked meal, healthy cooked meal, but working smarter, not harder. And so that's when I think about the Texas football schedule when Texas goes into the SEC. And I'm going to debunk a lot of things that you guys are going to say and a lot of things that you guys are thinking in a second. Because for me, when Texas goes in the SEC, it's going to be about working smarter and not harder. Now, this thing came up today. And it's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. Because as Steve Sarkisian spoke today at the Touchdown Club of Houston, a shout out to the Touchdown Club of Houston. They do a fantastic job. Neil Farmer is a really good guy. And I appreciate them having me out. And they run it really well. And everyone's really nice to my young son who was out there today. And Steve Sarkisian was asked kind of about the schedule in the future and having teams like Alabama like week 2 as far as the non-conference schedule. And he said, it's okay because sometimes in those dog days in the off season and you need guys to get motivated, you kind of get to remind them that, hey, come week 2, we're going to play such and such. And then guys are kind of able to push through a little bit harder. He said like that. So there is a benefit for having a tough team, a killer, as I would call it, in your non-conference a schedule. And he said, when the playoffs start to expand, one-loss teams are going to make it in. So even if you lose, you still got a shot. You still got an opportunity as a one-loss team to make it in. So he's like, it's not necessarily the bad thing or not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But let me throw at you, when Texas goes to the SEC, this thing that they're trying to do as relates to scheduling tough team, you can scratch all that. I don't want to hear it. Throw it away. It's done. Just Chris Delconte, you hear me? I know you've heard me. I know it's gotten back to you. It's gotten back to you because it's gotten back to me. That's gotten back to you. Because I know you hear it. Because they got people listening all the time, by the way. All the time. It's okay. Okay, shine away. We've got to rip up what our thought process is as relates to the non-conference schedule, okay? And I'm going to say this, and this is why. Because Texas, as a program, ain't really known for starting 3-0. The last time Texas, the University of Texas, began a season 3-0 was in 2012, ladies and gentlemen. 2012. You know why? Because all Texas wants to do is schedule killers. Now, here's what happened. Let me explain to you guys so everyone understands what happened and how this whole thing came about. So when Texas A&M decides that they're going to go into the SEC, Texas as a university is trying to find out and discover how do we have kind of like marquee games for our fan base, home games for our fan base, because that game is gone. And so what Texas starts trying to do is says, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and schedule these tough opponents so we will be able to have stuff for folks to see. It was really a lot of it. It wasn't necessarily like we're trying to be like the big boys. It was, we really want to make sure we can sell these season tickets to our fan base. That's really what it was. I know a lot of you guys think like, no, it's about trying to be tough and flex and show everybody where Texas is. And no. Actually, it was about trying to sell tickets to the fan base. And so what happened is it was hard to sell a season ticket package that just had Big 12 teams. Not really just alluring to say, you know what? Oh, cool. Kansas and Kansas State are coming here this year. Yay. They had to figure out, okay, you got to bring in the BYUs of the world. You got to bring in that LSU, in order to be able to do it. There's supposed to be a home-at-home, series that didn't happen, And so, bring in, to Maryland was never supposed to happen. Now, let's just be quite honest. Alabama, so on and so forth. And so, Blake, if you can, I want you to pull up the Texas schedule, the future schedule for Texas going forward. So let's take a look at Texas' future non-conference opponents. 2023 at Alabama, 2024 at Michigan, 2025 at Ohio State, 2026 Ohio State's here. 3 straight years of facing killers on the road, elite teams on the road. Okay, and remember, this team is going into the SEC in 2024, and you already got on the road at Michigan, right? You're already going to do that. In addition to the SEC schedule, 2026 Ohio State, 2027 Michigan, nothing as hard in 2028 UTEP, and then the Florida will bleed into the schedule as well, and of course Arizona State, which it is what it is, right? So you can take that off, Blake. Thank you so much. So you guys get a chance to see what there is, and I think that something was missing in that one because Georgia was 2028 and Georgia was 2029. Again, that's supposed to bleed into the schedule as well. But that's like the tough non-conference schedule. Okay. Now, I know some of you guys will say to yourself, but no, Anwar, Unk. See, no, it's Thursday, it's Wednesday night. It's Unk night. Anwar, that's corporate Anwar. He's on other days. He's Modcast and Overreaction Monday and K&A. This is Unk time. So Anwar doesn't exist. It's alter ego. But the real me. They say so. No, Unk. What about the other schools, other programs? They schedule some kills like that. Okay. Okay, so Blake, find Alabama for me. Let's put up Alabama for me because that's what you guys. All right, let's look what other programs do in the SEC that are already established. Okay, so in 2023, Alabama will have Texas, but look at the other programs that Alabama has: Middle Tennessee, USF, Chattanooga. What division is Chattanooga? Let's look at 2024. Western Kentucky, USF, at Wisconsin, Mercer. Alabama has Chattanooga in 2023, Mercer in 2024. Are you with me right now? Okay, so look at 2025. Keep going. At Florida State, that's a tough game. You got to give them that. ULM, Wisconsin, tough-ish. Eastern Illinois. Look at 2026. At West Virginia, USF, Florida State. Okay. Again, this is Alabama. This is creme de la creme, right? So you gotta love this, right? But I see you, Chad, FCS games. I see 2027, tough game. Ohio State, 2028, Ohio State, 2029, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma State, 2030. Georgia Tech and Notre Dame, right? So that you notice that there. And there's another one, Blake, put up for me LSU, because LSU decided to say to themselves, hey, we're going to schedule some killers as well, right? So let's look at LSU, right? So they've got Florida State in 2023. Now look at what else LSU has. Grambling State, Army, Georgia State. What? Grambling State, Army, Georgia State. All right. 2024 USC, always a good support. You give them props for that. I'll give them props for UCLA, South Alabama. 2025, they got Clemson. Okay, you got to give them props for that. 2026 is Clemson. 2027, they've got Houston or UTSA, but they probably scheduled Houston before they were a Big 12 program. 2029, Arizona State and Rice. You got Arizona State, we got Utah, right? Okay. And let me put up one more. Let me just put up one more, Blake. Put up, just for shits and giggles, put up Texas A&M for me. Put up Texas A&M because you guys want to know what the Aggies are doing. What are the Aggies doing, right? We'll just get the Aggies out of the way as an SEC team before I show you guys something, okay? So look at the Aggies. 2023, they've got New Mexico, they've got Miami, ULM, and Abilene Christian. 2024, they've got Notre Dame, tough team for them. McNeese, Bowling Green, New Mexico State. Are you guys are you sensing a theme here? They've got UTSA in 2025, Utah State, Notre Dame, and Tarleton State. Arizona State. 2027, they got Texas State, Arizona State, New Mexico, and Arkansas State. 2028 is Louisville and Abilene Christian. And in 2029 is Louisville. Okay? Come back to me, Blake. Come back to me, Blake. Come back to me, Blake. You can take that off. Because I got some more to show y'all. The SEC, and this is where you got to wrap your mind around. The SEC has understood very well that all that matters is a couple of easy non-conference games. And then the schedule is so tough within the SEC, you don't have to go outside of it because you will all beat up each other. And because you're in the SEC, you'll be ranked when it's all said and done. I want to show you something because you're going to say to yourself, all right, okay, hold on. All right. I sort of said, what's your plan on tomorrow? I'm going to show you what the plan is. You guys heard of University of Georgia, right? Tough program. Now, I want you to think about the Texas schedule when I just told you guys what Texas is facing over the next couple of years, right? I've showed you the Alabamas of the world, right? You know Michigan, Ohio State, like you know what Texas has going forward. Blake, let's show them Georgia. Guys, look at 2023 for Georgia. UT Martin, this is the national champions now. UT Martin, Ball State, UAB, Georgia Tech. That is who Georgia is facing. That's their non-conference opponents in 2023. Look at 2024, what Georgia has. Tennessee Tech, right? Georgia Tech. I mean, look at these programs that Georgia is having over here. Look at 2025, UCLA, Austin P. Was that Charlotte, Georgia Tech? Go through this thing. This is the University of Georgia. You don't recognize a non-conference opponent really with a huge pulse until 2027 when they play Florida State, who may or may not even be good at that point, right? They've got Florida A&M. They've got Florida A&M on their 2028 schedule with Florida State and Georgia Tech. That's on there. And again, think about, look at this. In 2030, they've got North Carolina A&T that's on here. Ohio State, that's the toughest team. Clemson, that's the closest they're getting to a tough one. Like that's the closest that they're getting at all. That's Georgia. That's Georgia. Okay, Blake, throw on. Give me Tennessee. Let me show you Tennessee, guys. I'm gonna show you. Let's show you what Tennessee is doing. Tennessee 2023. Virginia, average. Austin P, UTSA, UConn. 2024, Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, UTEP. 2025, Syracuse, UAB. 2026, Nebraska, Western Michigan, Furman. Followed by Nebraska 2027, West Virginia in 2028, Washington in 2029, and Washington in 2030. That's what Tennessee is doing. Here's a good one. This is going to be one of my good ones. I'll show you guys one more. Ole Miss. You got Blake. Put Ole Miss up there for me. Look at Ole Miss, y'all. Look at Ole Miss. Mercer, Tulane, Georgia Tech, ULM in 2023. That's their non-conference schedule. Do you see Ohio State or Michigan or any other killer that's on here? Do you see Notre Dame on here? Do you see Penn State on here? Do you see anybody? Go to 2024. Look through that one. Furman, Middle Tennessee, at Wake, Georgia Southern. This is an Ole Miss schedule. 2025 is when they finally play a team of opposed USC, but they said, you know what? After that, let's make up with it with the Citadel, Wake Forest, and Tulane. Again, 2026, that's a home at home of USC. So, but they said, you know what? At the end of the day, let's make sure we get Charlotte, Georgia State, and Eastern Kentucky on. 2027 is Charlotte, UConn, and Oregon State. 2028, South Alabama, Alcorn State, BYU, and UConn. Fellas, ladies, what are we talking about? South Alabama and BYU in 2029, Oregon State and Georgia Southern in 2030. I mean, if we were on trial, Ump would say the defense rest. Ump would say at this moment, the fence actually rests. This is why I'm hammering and will continue to hammer. The SEC understands and they know what they have, their brand, who they are. That's more important than anything else. They don't feel the need to have to go out and impress and place all these killers so everybody else feels like, ooh, we play some. They're playing Furman. These guys are playing directional schools. These guys are playing the Tarletons of the world. Like, this is what they're doing. And that's why I said when Texas gets to the SEC, there's no need to work harder. You just got to work smarter. And at the end of the day, can I tell you something? When everyone Texas, when it's, oh, we got to play these tough teams. And, you know, we got to be the best, got to beat the best, all this kind of stuff. TCU went to the playoffs last year. TCU's non-conference teams were Colorado, Tarleton, and SMU. And TCU made the playoffs. And if TCU doesn't have one of these teams on their schedule, they probably don't make the playoffs. If TCU loses to Michigan in week 2, or Ohio State in week 2, or Georgia or Florida, Arizona State, whatever it is, they're not there. And they had Colorado, Tarleton, and SMU, and they were able to go to the CFP. Well, Onward, you know, Onward, whoever. They got beat. They got smashed in the national championship game. They made it to the national championship game. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And you have to say, when you say TCU got smashed in the national championship game, make sure you say one other thing. And they made it to the national championship game. That's why Unc is saying, and that's why Unc will continue to say, Unc will give you the stats and the numbers to prove that at the end of the day, when Texas gets there, if Texas just plays it smart and uses those 3 games as tune-up games and to get themselves ready for the SEC schedule, it will serve them a lot better than try to schedule killers. Because if you schedule a killer and lose in week 2, and then you lose 1 or 2 games in your conference, you're out. But if you do the tune-up, and then if you only lose 1 and maybe 2 conference games and you're 10-2, then you are in. And that's if you're Texas, that's the goal. Because you know what? Like anything, I would say to you, if you're Texas, how's this strategy working out for you so far? Because it really hasn't worked out well. It hasn't yielded you the results that you thought it would yield. So you know what? If you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. And sometimes it's time to switch it up. And that's all I'm going to say as far as that is concerned. It's time for Texas to switch it up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Drunk Unk Sports Podcast. I appreciate you guys watching me, supporting me. I hope everyone will be back next week. Do me a favor, not only you hit like and subscribe, share this video. Send it to one of your friends, your homeboys, your girlfriend, something like that. Just share it and let them know, like, hey, we got someone out here talking Texas football. I'm on this channel like 4 days a week, y'all. So I'm here. I'm holding it down. I'm excited about it. But let me say one quick thing. Shout out to my main man, Blake, who works behind the scenes tirelessly, always going above and beyond, giving you the graphics, giving you all the edits, like everything like that. Blake does a phenomenal job, so I definitely appreciate him. You guys have a fantastic week. Enjoy it. You guys know what I'll be doing. Be doing soccer all weekend long. You guys enjoy what you guys are going to do all weekend long. And remember, especially, I say this all the time, but when I think about Chuck Carlton, my sign off means more today. It is more relevant today. It is probably more of a reminder of what my today than anything else. Live each day like it was your last, because one day it will be. I'll talk to you.